The next item up is review and adoption of the meeting agenda. Does anyone have any additional changes to the draft agenda?
I have one change that I'd like us to strike 4C, the meeting minutes for October 29th work session. And otherwise, I would like to make a motion to approve the agenda.
Okay, we've got a motion to amend and approve the amended agenda. Any further discussion, any further changes? If not, I need a second.
Second.
Motion properly seconded. All in favor of approving the amended agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. The next item up is the approval of the two meeting minutes we have for work sessions for October the 11th and October the 20th. Has everyone had a chance to review those minutes? And does anyone have any changes to those minutes?
I do, if I may. On the October 28th minutes, agenda item number 4 doesn't actually reflect the motion to adjourn the recess. If I have the right copy.
So what should the minutes say then?
Chairman John Breeden made a motion, and I would imagine, do we adjourn the meeting at that point, or was there a subsequent meeting that was recessed?
Oh, the October 29th meeting minutes?
This is the 28th.
Oh, 28th also.
Yeah,
I believe that was a recess.
okay. Are you with me?
Right, so you want to amend it to say that I called the recess? Is that correct?
Right. Chairman John Breeden made a motion to recess until and whatever the next planning work session was.
Okay.
And then I would imagine we have reflected in the minutes of the meeting or notes of the meeting who seconded and properly approved.
Those sorts of motions don't have to be seconded or approved. I just go ahead and go into recess. But that should be reflected.
Okay.
So with that change, any other changes to the meeting minutes for the October 11th and October 28th work sessions? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the amended minutes. Do I have a motion? I've got a motion to approve those minutes. Do I have a second?
Second.
I've got a motion properly seconded. All in favor of approving the minutes with the change made, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you all very much. Okay, at this time, we will open up our public comment period. Speakers can speak for up to 3 minutes, and groups can speak for up to 5 minutes on any planning matter not that we don't have a public hearing for tonight. So any other planning matter, individuals can speak. I would ask that if you do want to speak, if you come up and tell us your name and either your address or which district you any non-public hearing planning matter. At this time, I will call for the comment period open. Anyone? Seeing no one, I will close public comment period. And I'm sure y'all are here for a reason. I think that's our next item up. Our next item is number 6, public hearing for conditional use permit 03-19 for Sweet Sioux Solar LLC. Mr. Vedder, do you have anything you want to share with us?
Yes, sir. Good evening. What you have before you is a conditional use permit application, 03-19. Owners, David Chenault, Suzanne Chenault, and Keith Brady, Football and Sons LLC, and the applicant is Sweet Sioux Solar LLC. This is a request for conditional use permit for the installation of a 77 megawatt new solar photovoltaic generation facility. Tax map parcels are listed there in your packet, the minimum. The total project area will be approximately 1,262 acres of land. The expected fenced area of the project will encompass approximately 576 acres. Adjacent properties consist of 27 parcels zoned agricultural conservation, mainly farmland, houses, accessory structures. There's 14 adjacent parcels zoned R1, 2 parcels are zoned RR, consisting mainly of single-family residential dwellings. Future land use map and the 2016 comprehensive plan indicate rural use for the property, and the property is located in the Manquin 4th voting district. Our public notices were made on the 21st of August and September 17th of 2019. Invenergy held a third community meeting on November 21st, 2019. Notice of the Planning Commission's public hearing for tonight were mailed to adjacent property owners on November 21st and on the 25th to the applicants. Legal advertisements were run in the Tabloid Review on the 20th of November and the 27th of November. Notifying the public of the Planning Commission public hearing is scheduled for tonight, December 3rd, 2019. Staff has reviewed the application and the preliminary site plans. They appear to be in general compliance with the requirements for obtaining a conditional use permit. The final site plan will require greater detail to include ENS, stormwater management plans, and associated studies and calculations. There are no deed restrictions barring the proposed use of the property. As you can see in the aerial view, most parcels surrounding the proposed project are larger parcels, heavily wooded or field, and provide adequate buffer zones to the project site. The applicant's report contained measures to preserve and augment the natural buffer around the project site, and that would be in the Invenergy Sweet Sioux Solar CUP application dated August 7th, 2019. Staff took a look at the conditional use permit announced. We did the analysis of the conditional use permit application. A little background. On September 28, 2015, the Board of Supervisors adopted a zoning ordinance text amendment which permits solar power stations by conditional use permit in the agricultural conservation district. The ordinance included application requirements, public notice procedures, and minimum development standards. The designation of a use as a conditional use in the zoning district means that the use may not be appropriate in all cases, depending upon whether conditional use permit conditions can be met. Application requirements of section 86456G have been met. Section 86452 of the zoning ordinance states that conditional use should be approved if it is found that the use, the location is appropriate, not in conflict with the comprehensive plan. Comprehensive plan shows the AC as remaining AC and designated rural. One of the other conditions for the use is public health, safety, morals, and general welfare will not be adversely affected. The application appears to address potential impacts to the public, and the necessary safeguards would be provided for protection of surrounding property, persons, and the neighborhood values. The conceptual layout depicts the location of solar panels in relation to adjacent properties. The proposed solar project appears to meet the site plan requirements. The Planning Commission may recommend reasonable conditions to the Board of Supervisors as it believes necessary to accomplish the objectives of the ordinance. There are some recommendations that, if approved, if the solar facility is approved, staff recommends the following conditions. The applicant shall meet the development standards listed below. Location standards for utility scale solar facilities. The location standards stated below for utility scale solar facilities are intended to mitigate the adverse effects of such uses on adjoining property owners, the area, and the county. The minimum area of a utility scale solar facility shall be no less than 2 acres, and the maximum area should be no greater than 1,500 acres. The equipment improvement structures and percent of acreage coverage of a utility scale solar facility shall be shown on the approved concept plan and site plan. The percent of acreage coverage shall not exceed 65%. They will provide an inventory of all solar facilities existing or proposed within a 4-mile radius of the proposed facility. A utility scale solar facility shall be constructed and maintained in substantial compliance with the approved concept plan. The minimum setback to property lines of parcels with dwellings shall be 200 feet. The minimum setback to other property lines shall be 150 feet. The maximum height of the lowest edge of the photovoltaic panels shall be 10 feet as measured from the finished grade. The maximum height of primary structure and accessory buildings shall be 15 feet as measured from the finished grade at the base of the structure to its highest point, including appurtenances. The Board of Supervisors may approve a greater height based upon the demonstration of a significant need where the impacts of increased height are mitigated. The facilities, including fencing, shall be significantly screened from the ground level view of adjacent properties by a buffer zone of at least 100 feet wide. There shall be landscape or plant materials consisting of an evergreen and deciduous mix, as approved by the zoning administrator, except to the extent that vegetation or natural landforms on the site provide such screening as determined by the zoning administrator. In this particular section of the recommendations, there have been some changes over the last couple of days. We will be looking to insert some comments about the 12-foot buffer, the types of trees that are planted, the width. If you would refer to Mr. Wagner's comments that I believe you all were given, it'll be language similar to that, is the intent. While we'll maintain this language, will also include the 12-foot, increasing 4 foot to 12 foot, and there may be some other tweaking of the language in there to clarify the actual buffer zone and what will be planted in it. The facility shall be enclosed by security fencing on the interior of the buffer area, not to be seen by other properties, not less than 7 feet in height and topped with razor and barbed wire as appropriate. One note here, that is 6 foot of fence with a 7-foot barbed wire type, so the overall height, including the razor wire, would be 7 feet. As appropriate. A performance bond reflecting the cost of anticipated fence maintenance shall be posted and maintained. Failure to maintain the security fencing shall result in revocation of the conditional use permit and the facility's decommissioning. Ground cover on the site shall be, we'll probably change the wording of this as well, but ground cover on the site shall be native vegetation where feasible and maintained in accordance with the landscaping maintenance plan in accordance with established performance measures of the approved landscaping plan. King William County Ordinance 86, zoning article 11, landscaping. A performance bond reflecting the cost of anticipated landscaping maintenance shall be posted and maintained. Failure to maintain the landscaping shall result in revocation of the conditional use permit and the facility's decommissioning. The applicant shall identify an access corridor for wildlife to navigate through the solar facility. The proposed wildlife corridor shall be shown on the site plan submitted to the county. Areas between fencing shall be open to allow for the movement of migratory animals and other wildlife. The design of support buildings and related structures shall use materials, colors, architecture, screening, and landscaping that will blend the facilities to the natural setting and surrounding structures. The owner-operator shall maintain the solar facility in good condition. Such maintenance shall include, but not be limited to, painting, structural integrity of the equipment and structures as applicable, and maintenance of the buffer areas and landscaping. Site access shall be maintained to a level acceptable to the county in general accordance with the Virginia Department of Transportation Standard 24 VAC 30-73-70 for low commercial entrances. And we'll probably look at tweaking this a little bit, just because of some VDOT issues in accordance with VDOT if they come up with something different. Don't want to lock into just one thing since VDOT may recommend something else. The project owner shall be responsible for the cost of maintaining the solar facility and access roads and the cost of repairing damage to private roads occurring as a result of construction and operation. The operator shall repair damaged roads within 30 days of notification of the county or at such time as they can acquire VDOT permits. A utility-scale solar facility shall be designed and maintained in compliance with the standards contained in applicable local, state, and federal building codes and regulations that were enforced at the time of the permit approval. A utility-scale solar facility shall comply with all permitting and other requirements of the Virginia Department of Environmental Quality. The applicant shall provide proof of adequate liability insurance for a solar facility prior to beginning construction and before the issuance of a zoning or building permit to the zoning administrator. Lighting fixtures, as approved by the county, shall be the minimum necessary for safety and security purposes to protect the night sky by facing downward and to minimize off-site glare. No facility shall produce glare that would constitute a nuisance to the public during construction or general operation. Any exceptions shall be enumerated on the concept plan and approved by the zoning administrator. No signage of any type may be placed on the facility other than notices, warnings, and identification information required by law. All facilities must meet or exceed the standards and regulations of the Federal Aviation Administration, State Corporation Commission or equivalent, and any other agency of the local, state, or federal government with the authority to regulate such facilities that are in force at the time of the application. At all times, the solar facility shall comply with the county's noise ordinance. Any other conditions added by the planning, any other condition added by the Planning Commission or Board of Supervisors as part of a conditional use permit approval. Decommissioning. The following requirements shall be met for decommissioning. Solar facilities which have reached the end of their useful life or have not been in active and continuous service for a period of 1 year shall be removed at the owner or operator's expense, except if the project is being repowered or a force majeure event has or is occurring requiring longer repairs. However, the county may require evidentiary support that a longer repair period is necessary. The owner or operator shall notify the zoning administrator by certified mail of the proposed date of discontinued operations and plans for removal. Decommissioning shall include removal of all solar electric systems, buildings, cables, electrical components, security barriers, roads, foundation pilings, and any other associated facilities, so that any agricultural ground upon which the facility and systems were located is again tillable and suitable for agricultural or forestry uses. The site shall be graded and reseeded to restore it to its natural pre-development condition as possible, or replanted with pine seedlings to stimulate pre-timber, pre-development conditions as indicated in the preliminary site plan. Any exception to the restoration, leaving access roads in place, or seeding instead of plant seedlings must be requested by the landowner in writing, and this request must be approved by the Board of Supervisors. Other conditions might be more beneficial or desirable at that time. The site shall be regraded and reseeded or replanted within 12 months of removal of solar facilities. Regrading, reseeding, or replanting shall be initiated within a 6-month period of removal of equipment. Decommissioning shall be performed in compliance with the approved decommissioning plan. The Board of Supervisors may approve any appropriate amendments to or modifications of the decommissioning plan. Hazardous material from the property shall be disposed of in accordance with federal and state law. The estimated cost of decommissioning shall be guaranteed by the deposit of funds in an amount equal to the estimated cost in an escrow account at a federally insured financial institution approved by the county, unless otherwise provided for in section 5 below. The applicant shall deposit the required amount into the approved escrow account before any building permit is issued to allow construction of the solar facility. The escrow account agreement shall prohibit the release of the escrow funds without the written consent of the county administrator and the county attorney. The county shall consent to the release of the escrow funds upon the owner's or occupant's compliance with the approved decommissioning plan. The county administrator and county attorney may approve the partial release of escrow funds as portions of the approved decommissioning plan are performed. The amount of funds required to be deposited in the escrow account shall be the full amount of the estimated decommissioning costs without regard to the possibility of salvage value. The owner or occupant shall recalculate the estimated cost of decommissioning every 5 years. If the recalculated estimated cost of decommissioning exceeds the original estimated cost of decommissioning by 10%, then the owner or occupant shall deposit additional funds into the escrow account to meet the new cost estimate. If the recalculated estimate cost of decommissioning is less than 90% of the original estimated cost of the decommissioning, then the county may approve reducing the amount of the escrow account to the recalculated estimate of decommissioning cost upon approval by the county administrator and the county attorney. The county may approve alternative methods to secure the availability of funds to pay for the decommissioning of a utility-scale solar facility, such as a performance bond, letter of credit, or other security approved by the county administrator and county attorney. If the owner-operator of the solar facility fails to remove the installation in accordance with the requirements of this permit or within the proposed date of decommissioning, the county may collect the surety and the county or hired third party may enter the property to physically remove the installation. Applicants for new solar facilities shall coordinate with the county's fire and emergency services staff to provide materials, education, and training to the department serving the property with fire and emergency services in how to safely respond to on-site emergencies. A solar facility shall be constructed, maintained, and operated in substantial compliance with the approved concept plan, the conditions imposed pursuant to this conditional use permit. The applicant shall pay a supplemental application fee to cover the actual cost of any review of the erosion and sediment control plan and stormwater plans. The applicant shall pay a supplemental application fee to cover the actual cost of any erosion, sediment control, and stormwater inspections. If the solar facility does not receive a building permit within 18 months of approval of the conditional use permit, the permit shall be terminated. If the solar facility is declared to be unsafe by the zoning administrator or building official, the facility must be in compliance with 14 days of the conditional use permit, shall be terminated, and the solar electric system, buildings, cabling, electrical components, security barriers, roads, foundation pilings, and any other associated facility removed from the property. A note about 7 and 8. The applicant has expressed some concerns about the timeframes on 7 and 8. And I just wanted to bring that to the commission's attention that they may be requesting some modification to those conditions. If the solar facility is declared to be, the owner and operator shall give the county written notice of any change in ownership, operator, or power purchase agreement within 30 days. All federal, state, and county permit required reviews and approvals must be obtained prior to the commencement of land disturbance activities. And I'm going to take a sip of your water. I've provided some commentary in your packet. This isn't considered part of the order, or it's not part of the recommendations or conditions. It is to explain some of the conditions and what they entail. Solar facilities that are 150 megawatts or less capacity require a Virginia Department of Environmental Quality permit by rule, or PDM. Included in this packet is the Solar Permit by Rule Department of Environmental Quality Guidance Memo for Small Renewable Energy Projects. The guidance document addresses pre-construction natural resource analysis, mitigation plans, post-construction monitoring, and other permit by rule requirements and issues. Elements included in obtaining a permit by rule include, but are not limited to, notice of intent to be published in the Virginia Register for a small renewable energy project. A small renewable energy project is one with a rated capacity greater than 5 megawatts and a disturbance zone of greater than 10 acres. Certification by the governing body of the locality that the project complies with all applicable land use ordinances. Interconnection studies, final interconnection agreement, certification of the project's maximum generation capacity, environmental impacts regarding national ambient air quality, analysis of the beneficial and adverse impacts of the project on natural resources. For wildlife, that analysis shall be based on information on the presence, activity, and migratory behavior of wildlife to be collected at the site for a period of time dictated by the site conditions and biology of the wildlife being studied, not exceeding 12 months. Must provide a mitigation plan pursuant to non-BAC 15-60-60 that details reasonable actions to be taken by the owner-operator to avoid, minimize, or otherwise mitigate such impacts, and to measure the efficiency of those actions. The mitigation shall be an addendum to the operating plan of the solar energy project, and the owner-operator shall implement the mitigation plan as deemed complete and adequate by the department. That would be the Department of Environmental Quality. The mitigation plan shall be an enforceable part of the permit by rule. Operating plan detailing operating procedures and contact information for the facility operator. That all environmental permits have been obtained. Certification that the applicant is not a utility under Title 56 of the Code of Virginia or is a utility, and that the project's costs are not recovered from Virginia customers under base rates. A fuel factor charge or a rate adjustment clause, or the utility is a cooperative. And require public hearings and summary comments. In addition to the permit by rule, proposed projects that involve land disturbance greater than 1 acre in size require a Department of Environmental Quality construction general permit be issued prior to any construction activities. A stormwater pollution prevention plan has to be prepared and approved prior to issuance of the construction general permit. The stormwater pollution prevention plan must include a legible site plan identifying the directions of stormwater flow and approximate slopes anticipated after major grading activities, limits of land disturbance, including steep slopes and natural buffers around surface waters that will not be disturbed, locations of major structural and non-structural control measures, including sediment basins and traps, perimeter dikes, sediment barriers, and other measures intended to filter, settle, or similarly treat sediment that will be installed between the disturbed areas and the undisturbed vegetated areas in order to increase sediment removal and maximize stormwater infiltration. Location of surface waters, locations where concentrated stormwater is discharged, locations of any support activities, including areas where equipment and vehicle washing, wheel wash, water, and other wash orders occur, storage areas for chemicals such as acid fuels, fertilizer, other lawn care chemicals, concrete washout areas, vehicle fuel and maintenance areas, sanitary waste facilities, including those temporarily placed on the construction site, and construction waste storage. The stormwater pollution prevention plan must include an approved erosion and sediment control plan designed and approved in accordance with the Virginia Erosion and Sediment Control Regulation 9-VAC 25-840. Implemented to control the volume and velocity of stormwater runoff within the site to minimize soil erosion. Control stormwater discharge, including peak flow rates and total stormwater volume, to minimize erosion at outlets and to minimize downstream channel and stream bank erosion. Minimize the amount of soil exposed during the construction activity. Minimize the disturbance of steep slopes. Minimize sediment discharges from the site in a manner that addresses the amount, frequency, intensity, and duration of precipitation, the nature of resulting stormwater runoff, and soil characteristics, including the range of soil particle sizes present on the site. Provide and maintain natural buffers around the surface waters, direct stormwater to vegetated areas to increase sediment removal and maximize stormwater infiltration, unless infeasible. Minimize soil compaction, and unless infeasible, preserve topsoil. ensure initiation of stabilization activities as defined in 9 VAC 25-880-1 of disturbed areas immediately whenever any clearing, grading, excavating, or other land disturbing activities have permanently ceased on any portion of the site or temporarily ceased on any portion of the site and will not resume for a period exceeding 14 days. 9, utilize outlet structures that withdraw stormwater from the surface, i.e. above the permanent pool or wet storage water, surface elevation, unless infeasible when disturbing from sediment basins or sediment traps. That was all commentary, so not exactly in the conditions, but I'm going to give you a little background on what was going to be required just by saying approved erosion sediment control plan would be required. Condition number 11, the erosion sediment control plan shall be prepared and implemented as a sequential progression, demonstrating that not more than 25% of the site be disturbed and not stabilized at any one time during construction. The erosion and sediment control plan will provide the means and measures to achieve stabilization of the disturbed areas to comply with this condition. The plan shall be reviewed by the county or by a qualified third party. However, the third party review shall not supersede any requirements imposed by state agencies. The applicant shall construct, maintain, and operate the solar facility in compliance with the approved plans. I wanted to give you a little background on stormwater pollution plans. Again, this isn't a condition, it's just an explanation. Which one's going? The stormwater pollution prevention plan must have a stormwater management plan that includes a description of and all necessary calculations supporting all post-construction stormwater management measures that will be installed prior to the completion of the construction process to control pollutants in stormwater discharges after construction operations have been completed. Structural measures should be placed on upland soils to the degree possible. Such measures must be designed and installed in accordance with applicable Virginia Erosion and Sediment Control Program Authority, Virginia Stormwater Management Program Authority, state and federal requirements, and any necessary permits must be obtained. The stormwater pollution prevention plan must include a pollution prevention plan which describes the pollution prevention practices and procedures that will be implemented to 1. Prevent and respond to leaks, spills, and other releases, including procedures for expeditiously stopping, containing, and cleaning up spills, leaks, and other releases. Procedures for reporting leaks, spills, and other releases in accordance with federal, state, and local regulatory requirements. Prevent the discharge of spilled and leaked fuels and chemicals from vehicle fueling, maintenance activities, providing secondary containment such as spill berms, decks, spill containment pallets, providing cover where appropriate, and having spill kits readily available. Prevent the discharge of soap, solvents, detergent, and wash water from construction materials, including cleanups. Direct concrete wash water into leak-proof containers, leak-proof settling basins. The container basins shall be designed so that no overflow can occur due to the inadequate sizing or precipitation. Hardened concrete waste shall be removed and disposed of in a manner consistent with the handling of other construction waste. Liquid concrete waste shall be removed and disposed of in a manner consistent with the handling of other construction wash waters and shall not be discharged to surface waters. Minimize the discharge of pollutants from storage, handling, disposal of construction products, materials, and waste, including building products, pesticides, herbicides, insecticides, fertilizers, and landscape materials. Any construction domestic waste, such as packing materials, scrap construction materials, masonry products, timber, pipe, electrical cuttings, plastic, styrofoam, concrete, and other trash or building materials. Prevent the discharge of fuels, oils, and other petroleum products, hazardous or toxic waste, waste concrete, and sanitary waste. Address any other discharge from the potential pollutant generating activities not addressed above. Minimize the exposure of waste materials to precipitation by closing or covering waste containers during precipitation events and at the end of the business day or implementing other similar effective practices. Minimization of exposure is not required in cases where the exposure to precipitation is not result of discharge of pollutants. And describe procedures for providing pollution prevention awareness of all applicable waste, including any washboard disposal practices and applicable disposal location of such waste, to personnel in order to comply with the conditions of the general permit for stormwater pollution prevention plan. The operator shall implement the procedures described in the SWIP inspections for compliance with the stormwater pollution prevention plan must be conducted by the operator at least once every 5 business days or at least once every 10 business days and no later than 24 hours following a measurable storm event. In the event that a measurable storm event occurs and there is more than 24 hours between business days, the inspection shall be conducted on the next business day. Erosion and sediment control inspections are conducted by the county every 2 weeks and within 48 hours of a rain event. The Department of Environmental Quality is responsible for stormwater and pollution prevention inspections. Condition 12, traffic management. The applicant shall comply with all Virginia Department of Transportation recommendations for traffic management during construction of the site and decommissioning of the site. The roads will need to be maintained in good condition during the construction phase and be brought back to the original condition or improved upon completion of the project and decommissioning phase. The applicant shall be required to consult with the Department of Conservation and Recreation's Division of Dam Safety and Floodplain Management to conduct an inspection and evaluation of the dams within the project area to determine and assure their future safety, and shall make whatever repairs and renovations as deemed to be appropriate by the Dam Safety Division prior to the issuance of a final permit for construction of the solar facility. The construction hours are restricted from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Saturday. Condition 16, a facility stormwater pollution plan shall be developed and implemented for the Sweet Sioux Solar Facility and shall be maintained for the duration of the facility's operation. The stormwater pollution prevention plan is intended to document the selection, design, and installation of control measures, including best management practices, to minimize the pollutants in all stormwater discharges from the facility, and to meet the applicable effluent limitations and water quality standards as applicable. The SWIP will require county review and approval prior to operation and annually thereafter. The plan shall include, at a minimum, the following items: identify a pollution prevention team, a site description. The stormwater pollution prevention plan shall include the following: activities at the facility, a general location map, USGS quadrangle or other map, with enough detail to identify the location of the facility and the receiving waters within 1 mile of the facility. A site map identifying the following: the boundaries of the property and the size of the property in acres, the location and extent of significant structures and impervious surfaces, locations of all stormwater conveyances including ditches, pipes, swales, and inlet, and the directions of stormwater flow, locations of all existing structural and source control measures including BMPs, locations of all surface water bodies including wetlands, locations of potential pollutant sources, locations of activities exposed to precipitation, equipment maintenance, cleaning areas, loading, unloading areas, locations used for the treatment, storage, or disposal of waste, access roads, and any machinery. Locations for the treatment, storage, or disposal of waste, locations of stormwater outfalls and approximate outline of the area draining to each outfall. Location of municipal stormwater sewer systems or county or VDOT, we'll change in there. It would be county and VDOT stormwater systems. If the stormwater from the facility discharges to, outfall shall be numbered using a unique numerical identification code for each outfall. Location of any storage piles containing salt used for de-icing or other commercial industrial purposes. Locations and sources of runoff to the site from adjacent properties where the runoff contains significant quantities of pollutants. And locations of all stormwater monitoring points. Receiving waters and wetlands, the name of all surface waters receiving discharges from the site, including intermittent streams, dry sloughs, and areas. Don't have a lot of those here. Provide a description of wetland sites that may include, or that may receive discharges from the facility. A summary of potential pollutant sources, solar panel site, contents, inverters, collection systems, components, substation, access roads, and the building. Stormwater controls type and location. The operator shall implement the following types of control measures to prevent controlled pollutants in the stormwater discharges from the facility unless it can be demonstrated and documented that such controls are not relevant to the discharge. Good housekeeping, the permittee shall keep clean all exposed areas of the facility that are potential sources of pollutants to stormwater discharges. Eliminating and minimizing exposure. Preventive maintenance, the operator shall have preventive maintenance program that includes regular inspections, testing, maintenance, and repairing of all equipment and systems to avoid situations that could result in leaks, spills, and other releases of pollutants in stormwater discharge from the facility. Sediment and erosion control, the plan shall identify areas of the facility that, due to topography, land disturbance, construction, landscape, and site grading, or other factors, have a potential for soil erosion. The operator shall identify and implement structural, vegetative, and stabilization control measures to prevent or control on-site and off-site erosion and sedimentation. Flow velocity dissipation devices shall be placed at discharge locations and along the length of any outfall channel if the flows would otherwise create erosive conditions. Management of runoff. The plan shall describe the stormwater runoff management practice, i.e. permanent structural control measures for the facility. These types of control measures are typically used to divert, infiltrate, reuse, or otherwise reduce pollutants in stormwater discharges from the site. Routine facility inspections. Facility personnel who possess the knowledge and skills to assess conditions and activities that could impact stormwater quality at the facility and who can also evaluate the effectiveness of control measures shall regularly inspect all areas of the facility exposed to stormwater. The inspection frequency shall be specified in the plan based upon consideration of the level of industrial activity at the facility, but shall be at a minimum quarterly unless more frequent intervals are specified elsewhere or written approval is received from the county for less frequent intervals. Inspections shall be performed during periods when the facility is in operation. At least once each calendar year, the routine facility inspection shall be conducted during a period when a stormwater discharge is occurring. The operations and maintenance plan detailing procedures and a regular schedule for preventive maintenance of all control measures shall include a description of the backup practices that are in place should a runoff event occur while a control measure is offline. The effectiveness of non-structural control measures shall be maintained by appropriate means. All control measures identified in the plan shall be maintained in effective operating condition and shall be observed at least annually during active operation, during a stormwater runoff event, to ensure that they are functioning correctly. Where discharge locations are inaccessible, nearby downstream locations shall be observed. The observations shall be documented in the Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan. Comprehensive site compliance evaluation. The operator shall conduct comprehensive site compliance evaluations at least once each calendar year. The evaluations shall be done by qualified personnel who possess the knowledge and skills to assess conditions and activities that could impact stormwater quality at the facility and can also evaluate the effectiveness of control measures. Evidence of or the potential for pollutants entering the drainage system, evidence of pollutants discharging to surface waters at all facility outfalls, and the conditions of and around the outfall, including flow dissipation measures to prevent scouring, review of stormwater-related training performed, inspections completed, maintenance performed, quarterly visual examinations, and effective operations of control measures, including BMPs. Results of both visual and any analytical monitoring done during the past year shall be taken into consideration during the evaluation. In your packet, conditions 18 and 19, I'm recommending that we reword that, and I'm going to read it to you for the record. They will be stricken. And condition 18 will read, the applicant shall pay a supplemental fee as determined by the Board of Supervisors to cover the cost to contract with an engineering firm with the experience and knowledge of solar facility planning, construction, and operation, including a working knowledge of federal and state requirements, to perform plan reviews, evaluations of submittals, construction and operation monitoring and inspections to include decommissioning management. Any questions?
That would be for both 18 and 19?
Yeah, I'll strike, I'll be pulling out 18 and 19
And then
and replacing
19,
19
okay.
with verbiage along those lines.
Other questions for Mr. Etter?
Well, let's see. Page 7 and 11. There, it's just- The stormwater prevention plan has to be changed that to shall
Did I miss one?
be. Yeah, 2.
I did. Oh.
Anything else?
And then on 9 and 11, the roads will need to be also changed back to shall be.
Would you repeat this first, the first one?
Okay, first one,
Page 7 and 11?
page 7 and 11, where it says a stormwater prevention plan has to be.
You want
changed
shall?
back to shall be.
No, you're actually looking at the package that we received a week ago, so
Yeah.
I think those changes were incorporated.
No, I missed, I did those halves.
They weren't in what you did.
And I searched and replaced for Boston shall.
And the same thing on 9 and 11, where it says the roads, it'll be number 13, where it says the roads will need to be, should be, shall be.
For condition number 15, I think we had discussed and incorporated this at our last meeting. The construction hours are restricted between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m.
Yes, ma'am.
I would recommend the construction and the decommissioning hours. Yeah, I recognize the distinction between the two.
Anything from this end of the table?
Just want to make sure we all get proper notifications were sent out this time. Everything is correct.
Approximately 400 addresses were, notices were sent out. We tried to capture a much larger space. And basically, if we saw houses that were near in the subdivision, we sent out the notification.
There were two items under the decommission section, C and G number 4, that I was wondering if we needed to add some timeframes around those in some of the language of,
Can you give me page number? I'm sorry,
it would be page number, it's actually in 5, but it's numbers, it starts on page number 4 at the bottom under C, that section for C, and under page 5G, as far as number 4, the timeframes of when we expect, I think it was number 4, the timeframe that we expect the notifications to be sent to us, or it says the plantings of the seedlings must be requested by the land owner in writing, and this request must be approved by the board of supervisors. I was just wondering if there's some kind of time frame when, from the point that they decide to do this, that they need to notify the board. It's not necessary
disturbed area.
Or is it-
I do, the intent there is to make sure
Right,
that we limit the amount of exposed soil.
right, exactly. And again, if it was 25% of the entire site, it would be much larger than 25%.
Oh, yeah. Disturbed, yeah,
Supposed to be disturbed.
yes, disturbed area.
So one question I have for you, anything else for Mr. Etter? Okay, before we open the public hearing, did the applicant want to say anything at this time?
No, we made our presentation to the planning commission previously. We won't belabor that this evening. Just, I guess, a general statement that in spirit, these conditions all sound reasonable to us. The tweaks that we propose are relatively minor, just for clarity on intent. And after consulting with Ron, it seems like we're very similar mindsets in that regard. So we appreciate you reconsidering the permit application tonight, and welcome any questions that you have after the public comment hearing period.
Let's start with this end forward. I'll start with this end. Any questions for the applicant? Yes,
Like that, after our last meeting, you had a lot of people that were concerned, and did you have more public meetings with some citizens between then and now? I know we've spoken to people maybe individually, but they.
Sure, yeah, we've had both, direct meetings with concerned citizens. We had the community meeting, referred to as the town hall, on the 21st. We had a couple of information, small informal group meetings leading up to the Board of Supervisors hearing. So we've continued reaching out to concerned citizens, addressing those concerns, and we'll continue to do so throughout this process.
anything else for that? Ms. Ford, Mr. Wagner?
I followed the question at the last public hearing we had in regard to the review of wildlife in the project area. Your packet said that you all had done a office review or desk review as well as a field review. Did your review take into consideration the species indicated in the EQ's guidelines?
That's correct, yeah. All state protected, federally protected species were considered in that review.
Did you find any evidence of bald eagles?
No, the review concluded there are no bald eagle nests of record within a 2-mile radius of the project.
I've understood there have been bald eagle sightings or nest sightings in the area. You may want to go back and revisit that.
And we'll conduct further reviews through the wetlands permitting processes. We're actually, we're actually having an interagency application meeting tomorrow with DEQ, Army Corps of Engineers, Fish and Wildlife Service, Department of Game and Inland Fisheries. They'll review our findings, advise of any additional studies and field work that will be conducted, and we'll proceed in compliance with their requirements and directives.
What studies have you all submitted to so far?
We haven't submitted anything to DEQ so far. I mean, a prerequisite for submitting our PBR application is local approval. So at the point where we've obtained local approval and can move forward with the permit by rule process, we'll submit a statement that essentially is an overview of all natural resource impacts. There's some information with regard to that in the commentary that Ron included in the conditions. So that'll cover the span of wildlife impacts, wetlands impacts, cultural resource impacts, all of which we've studied and are continuing to study and include a comprehensive overview of in our PBR application.
Anything else? Just have two questions for either you or one of your team. Excuse me. Number 7 and 8, you had some concerns with the building permit for 18 months and the area being declared unsafe for 14 days. Did you have proposed dates you were asking to consider?
Sure. For the expiration of the conditional use permit, we felt the original condition providing for 24 months was sufficient. Reducing that scope, limits our abilities to get this project constructed in a timeline that makes sense for us. That original condition provided for, the possibility of an extension, which this revised condition does not provide. So we think a fair compromise would be adding 6 months to the lifespan of the permit. And again, keeping that in mind with the spirit of the original condition that this commission reviewed and approved in our October 1st hearing. And with regard to the declaration of the facility being unsafe, I think more so our concern is just, what constitutes an unsafe facility, and we'd like to have a sufficient amount of time to rectify any issues that lead the zoning administrator or building official to deem the facility unsafe. There are scenarios where 14 days may not be sufficient. We'd like to make sure that we have adequate advance notice to, immediately employ the necessary means to rectify those conditions. So I think tying that 14 days to receipt of notice from an official would eliminate some of those concerns there, and then just giving a little bit of clarity on what constitutes unsafe under the condition would be the ask there.
Any further questions? Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, before I open up the public hearing, I know that some of you, perhaps a lot of you, have already been to public hearings and know how the process works. For those of you who are not, we're very interested in hearing your concerns for or against this application. I will tell you that we will not be having any kind of conversation. We want to hear what you have to say. We will then be able to take all that into account. We may have further questions for the applicant or staff or further comments beyond that, but there will not be any kind of dialogue. You will each have up to 3 minutes to speak. If you're going to be saying the same thing someone else has said, after a couple of folks, we may not need to hear from so many other than we may ask you to raise your hand if everybody agrees with a particular comment. However, each of you can speak for up to 3 minutes as an individual, or if you're representing a group, up to 5 minutes, and we'll try to be giving you a little extra latitude as necessary. We'll try not to cut you off. With having said that, at this time, I would ask that when you come up, you give us your name and either your address where you live or the district you live in. So at this time, I open the public comment period for the conditional use permit for permit number 0319 for Sweet Sioux Salt. Public hearing, public comment period of the hearing. Yes. So the public hearing is now open.
Good evening, Marshall Campbell, tax map parcel 20-27, which is just to the east at the north end of the project outlined there. With the new information that's come out since the October Planning Commission public hearing, I'm even more convinced that the proposed site is not the appropriate location for a solar power plant. The recent revelation that no economic impact report has been submitted to the county makes me question the dollar amount benefits to the county that Invenergy has been mentioning to the public regarding this project. If those numbers are not accurate, how can we trust other promises and reports that have been used to try and secure approval of this project? At the October Board of Supervisors meeting, Mr. Berry said the only difference between the Hollyfield project and this one was greater setbacks on this project. I disagree, as there are very many differences between the Hollyfield site and this site. Hollyfield was an ideal location as a use land that was not productive for other uses and was of minimal impact to other landowners and residents. Installation of a solar power plant was a great fit on that property, and the county did a wonderful job of merging that plant with the property. play field is also better suited to minimize potential negative impacts on surrounding land and waterways in case of a major problem at the site. This site is located such that a large number of residents, landowners will be negatively impacted, and especially so in case of a problem occurring at the power plant. With the numerous wetlands in this area, any major problem would spread toward the rivers and cause serious problems over a wide area, similar to what has happened to our neighbors in Essex. Finally, due to the close proximity to homes, I'm concerned about the negative impacts on nearby residents of EMI, which is electromagnetic interference, and RFI, which is radio frequency interference, that may be generated on this site. These can cause ongoing problems with telephones, radios, TVs, and other household electronic devices. And I haven't seen any input on how that's being controlled. Anytime you have large amounts of voltage, cables, motors running, you've got to have transformers to convert that DC to AC to put it onto the power transmission lines. You have the opportunity to have EMI and RFI problems. Thank you.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chairman, board members. My name is Leslie Scott Lucy. I'm a resident in the 4th District, Manquin Farm subdivision, directly adjoining the facility, proposed facility. I have many concerns, but I've been to some of the meetings with the Invenergy people, and they seem like they have everything's covered. That may well work out, but it may not. But the reality is, I'm a 6-year Air Force veteran, been in a lot of bad places in this world, and I chose King William County to come and live because it was a beautiful county, nice and rural. I put most of my life's investment in buying that property. Now, I'm gonna have to deal with maybe the property value impacts that I may be able to never get back. It may go up, it may go down, but if it goes down, it's on me. And I'm hoping that y'all, as the elected or appointed officials, are looking out for all the concerns of the citizens, not just the two parties involved in gaining money for the project. And I'll address more of my concerns with the board members in that time of your time. And thank you for listening to me.
Sir, my name is Tom Gallagher, I live at 616 Fair Alder Drive. We're not adjacent to it, but we're close, very close to it. I certainly concerned with the gentleman's, of his concern about the property values in the area, and it's all pretty much speculation as to what will happen, as far as I'm concerned. I don't think, and I agree that the wildlife studies are very important and need to be addressed totally. If I understand what I read online the other day, that the traffic is going to be going in and out on Enfield Road. And of course, the people that live on that road are going to be more impacted than anybody else. And their livelihoods and their homes need to be protected from any damage. The road was addressed, the road will be in equal to or better than condition when thousands of trucks go up and down the road over a period of years. But bottom line is, this is the energy of the future. Unless you work for oil and gas, this is it. And I can't address the geographical area because I'm not qualified to do that. But if everybody is doing their job, it will work out best for the county to have this project completed. Thank you.
my only concerns were, just like this other gentleman was talking about, was the rural area going to more industrial look to it. You know, he was talking about fences with barbed wire and all this other stuff. And that's not what I came out here for. I came out here for the wildlife and to be able to get away from the city life and get away from all that industrial look. And that's going to add industrial look to the area. It's not going to beautify anything. And I'm concerned about any type of lead and stuff like that getting into our water. I'm sure they have a plan for that, but they do have toxins in the panels and all that stuff that can get into the ground. And I don't know if they're going to have somebody maintain it all the time. There's somebody going to be on the facility all the time, or is it going to be running by itself, and then somebody occasionally comes by and makes sure everything's working like it's supposed to be? You know, he's talking about cleaning up the spillage and everything, but who's to say how long that spillage is going to sit there before somebody comes and realizes, hey, this is dumping lead down into the water, what are we going to do about it? And then somebody dig it out. I don't know, I'm not educated enough on that type of stuff, and maybe I got to do a little bit more homework on it, but that's my concern. Just, you know, everybody out there has wells, you know, and if any of these toxins get into our water, then what do we do then? So those are a few of my concerns. And the other thing is that y'all got to think about is that once those panels go in, it can be used for nothing else but those panels. We can't grow food on there. We can't do anything other than those panels sit there. That's it. We can't hunt on that land. You can't grow nothing on that land. You can't do anything with that land. It's just for the panels. And I'd rather do more with it than sit there and look at panels. I'd rather be able to put food on the table by either hunting or planting on it. Thank you.
I'm Amanda Ham, I live in District 3. I just have a quick question. I would like to see the information shared with the public before it moves forward. I just want to know if anyone's calculated the annual mandatory costs of accounting for inspections.
I'm Catherine Graves Stanley. I am the spokesperson for Responsible Solar in Wayne County. I also live in the 4th District and to the east of this project. In your packet tonight, there is a letter from Pettit and Floral, which gives the analysis from Marshburn Appraisal Group, which is retained on behalf of the Graves family, of which I'm a part of, and KW Morrison. We retain this group on behalf of the adjoining and abutting landowners. The review of this property valuation provided by the applicant and found that the match pairs analysis was not properly done. The match pairs analysis relied upon applicant actually showing a negative impact on property values. You'll see Exhibit A in your packet. Regarding match pair 1, the homes adjacent to solar facilities appreciated half the rate of homes not near solar facilities. Regarding match pair 2, home prices decreased in value by 12.23%. Match pair 9, homes not near solar facilities appreciated at double the rate of those adjacent to solar facilities. John Turnage, a local realtor with Virginia Capital Realty, also could not be here tonight, gave you his comments. Likewise noted that the applicant's match pairs analysis was flawed. The projects used the comparables approved or constructed after 2016, which is not enough time to assess the impact on property values. The projects in the rural areas with very few sales, the applicant's valuation did not take into account market factors such as available housing, inventory, local economic factors, etc. This is Exhibit B in your packet. The The applicant makes certain representations regarding wetlands in the project area and refers to certain studies conducted by Killenly Horn to delineate those wetlands and propose only a 100-foot buffer for construction activity without any representation regarding vegetation to be included within that buffer. As the Planning Commission should recognize, the protection of wetlands and preventing them from over-sedimentation is critical to all the citizens of this county. According to the EPA, wetlands protect water quality in rivers, streams, and wells. They reduce flood damage, provide essential habitats for fish, waterfowl, and other animals, and replenish aquifers. The Planning Commission should be particularly concerned with the impact on the groundwater and aquifers. King William County is in one of only 2 groundwater management areas in the Commonwealth, the Eastern Virginia Groundwater Management Area. The State Water Control Board is authorized to declare a groundwater management area only where, among other things, groundwater levels in the area are declining or expected to decline excessively, or the available groundwater supply has been or may be overdrawn. I cite Virginia Code Section 62.1-257. Thus, King William County has a water problem, and the Planning Commission needs to make sure that this does not take any action to exaggerate that problem. Groundwater quality and aquifer replenishment are critical to the future of King William County, and the Planning Commission cannot blindly allow the degradation of those resources. Therefore, the Planning Commission should recommend a denial of this application because of these items I have addressed above. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing no one else, I will close the public hearing. Thank you all for coming to speak. Taking some food for thought. At this time, so if the commissioners have any further questions for staff or the applicant at this time?
I do have a question. Sorry, I have a bit of a cold. So the materials in our packets are hard to read in terms of the schematics. So do we have the slide that shows where the proposed panels would be?
Yes, we do. It's in that set.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure.
Well, if you can't find it, that's okay. But there were 2 parcels, thank you so much, that the topography, according to the big map that I have, is pretty notable in terms of the grade. And those parcels are, there you go. I think that's Enfield Road. Can you point to Enfield Road?
You point to me where you want me to go.
To the far left, all the way to the top. It's kind of a lone set of panels.
Those up there?
No,
Way up there.
no,
Okay. This one?
no, it's to the left here. It's over, it's the access path,
Here.
there.
Okay.
That is a separate parcel that has a very steep grade that goes into, I guess, RPA area. The second parcel is the parcel that is over on your, no, I think it's to the right.
This one over here? Parcel.
Yes. And it is, yes, So I wanted to ask, because it doesn't even look like panels could be built that far out with the topography like that. So is this the proposal, that approval, it would move forward in that fashion? Or,
This is the maximum,
okay,
this is the maximum panel configuration that they can do.
okay,
Anything going forward, and they can reduce the size. And I know that some of their engineers, and they look at all different things, they would love to be able to get rid of these outliers because it costs them more money to keep those. But what they're presenting for the use permit is, again, the very maximum that they can do. That way, it's a whole lot easier to come and say, hey, we want to eliminate this, we want to eliminate that. That we can approve. If they came out and say, hey, we want to move out, that would never get approved. So in the cases of steep slopes, the same rules are going to apply for anywhere else. If the slopes are too steep, they can't build them.
according
And I
to,
will,
according to the approval process and the different departments.
site plans, erosion sediment control, stormwater management, there are restrictions on how steep the slope can be that they can operate on. And they have some construction constraints too, that it's just not practical on slopes. But again, their engineers are sitting here, so I don't want to speak for their construction, but from a regulatory standpoint, if the slope is too steep, they can't build it.
Okay. Okay. What I wanted to point out, because, and you read it, but I think it's important, is a standard of our review as commissioners. So the Board of Supervisors approved a zoning ordinance text amendment back in 2015 that permits by conditional use permit the installation of solar, I'm not going to call it farm facilities, okay? In certain circumstances in agricultural areas, right, the AC, I think
Correct.
that's the, okay, so I want to make that clear, that I know that that has been a concern, but that is permissible, and the planning commission, and ultimately the Board of Supervisors could make conditions upon that. But our review is the location, here are the parameters. The location is appropriate if not in conflict with the comprehensive plan, which it's stated that the parcels are in AC and it is in compliance. Then number 2 and number 3 are the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare will not be adversely affected. We have a letter that was submitted by a law firm. I think I received it today. Now, I have not had time to fully consider
It's
that.
also in your packet.
Yes, I saw it, but I have not had a full opportunity to review that. But I've received it today, where they're stating that it does not comply with this condition.
Ms. Stanley, if I may.
Yeah.
Ms. Stanley's comments very well summed up their letter.
Yeah, yeah. I was reading as she was going.
Okay.
I was going through it. Okay, so that's, we just received that, so I'm concerned about that parameter in terms of my review. The necessary safeguards in terms of the surrounding property persons and the neighborhood values, you read a page of 7, maybe 8, 9 sets of conditions that we have gone through and discussed. But I just wanted to put that out there in terms of the Planning Commission's role and its review of the materials. My primary concern is with the runoff. And you've answered the question.
Oh, okay, of course.
About the panels there, so I just wanted to ask that question. And set the standard of our review, because I think it's important. Okay.
Your points are well taken.
Okay.
Again, we're allowed to apply reasonable conditions.
Right.
Whether we want to have this sort of thing in the future, we need to consider the ordinance. But before us tonight is an application that with these conditions, I think, will protect the community.
noted that parcels 1, 2, and 3, and under David's property 4, that the contours were not extended down to the wetlands on Governor Swamp on many of those properties. And my question is, will those contours be extended in order to evaluate the impact on those properties and the stream, Governor Stream and Governor Swamp?
Yes. When it comes to wetland delineations, waters of the U.S., perennial streams, intermittent streams, all of that, under the construction and permitting process, they have to identify all drainage areas, not guessing. I mean, it's all the drainage areas, all the contours, where the water's going to go. They have their site plans, and the DEQ stormwater reviewer who will review any stormwater management plan. DEQ's dedicated one person to do that. And she is a real stickler to make sure that people show everything. And I know one of your concerns is runoff and downstream flooding issues. The runoff reduction method and a bunch of other things that are required in the Virginia Stormwater Management Program, you have to evaluate downstream until you are less than 1%. A lot of technical things, but you have to evaluate. You can't stop at your project line because it's over. You have to go downstream. You have to demonstrate to the plan reviewer that you need not only a lot of runoff reduction or NS19, depending on what you're doing, but there's a lot of requirements, and you can't get away with terminating your contour lines. She won't allow it, and to be honest, when we're reviewing erosion sediment control, I have to be able to see, or we have to be able to see the whole bit. Yeah, so this is conceptual plan. This is, to give us a good idea of where they're going to build, what they're going to do, how they're going to address it. But this, again, is for use of this specific land. And the concerns on the wetlands and rivers and construction, that gets flooded in the construction general permit process.
May I just ask one quick question, just because you said something. So what you're saying is that the applicant would not be able to go in, and regrade a property and the contours of the property for the purpose of installing the panels?
There will be grading.
No, I understand, but I'm talking about the two parcels in question with a grade that is fairly significant.
I do, again, that would be something we would have to evaluate at construction. As far as cut, fill, if they have to push it down, I really can't answer that in the use phase of things. It's until they submit for their actual construction permit.
Okay.
And I don't know if y'all have looked at that. Have you?
So I could make two comments. One, the areas, the property you're referring to on the southern end is the Flippo property. The Chenal property on the western side is the other property where you're expressing concerns about the topography. The areas where we have panels located are the areas where the topography is the flattest. That's an element of our design for the most efficient operation of the facility. I think if you look closely at the topographic information provided in the packet, I believe it's Exhibit 4 of the preliminary site plan, you can sort of match up the extent of those panels with where those contours appear closer together and the slope steepens. So I mean, our plan is to not grade or build in those particularly steep and sensitive areas, and I think it's reflected in the preliminary site plan.
I'm a very visual person. My thing would be, I'd like to have an overlay.
One overlay, we can provide that.
I mean, because I can't tell.
Sure.
I can't tell when I look at it. It looks, I'm looking at it, and it looks like it's right up panels and hills, and that may or may not be the case, but
Sure.
from a layman's person's eyes, that's what I'm seeing, so
Yeah,
I just wanted to express that concern.
That's something we can easily provide, and then to Mr. Wagner's question, the LiDAR data that we obtained to map the contours of the land does extend beyond the scope of the permit area. We only provided what was within the permit area because that's what the preliminary site plan ordinance requires, but we can readily provide, the full extent of that data. And the county can utilize it in their analysis of erosion and sediment control and stormwater management.
Where the panels would be put, when you visit the site, it's fairly flat. The steep slope begins beyond the panel, because again, you don't panels on the slope where they'll take full advantage of the sunlight.
They do appear to be fairly contours, and my next question was, is there any setback when you start the steep slope, getting in the 10% plus range? Will the panels be set back far enough from that to take care of any erosion sediment control, berms or whatever is necessary? And about how far, any indication or any idea about how far we would set the panels back from those steep areas?
Well, when I evaluated, when the erosion sediment controls, and I'll let the engineer chime in here, but there are requirements for setbacks.
Yeah, Sean Malone with Kimley Horn, civil engineer on the project. It's hard to say for sure what the setback would be from steep slopes, but in general, it's about 100 feet that we'll need to install the proper erosion and sediment controls around the project. It does vary in different situations because it's very difficult to build ponds in extremely flat areas as well, so you kind of have the opposite effect. So we look at each area that drains to a certain point that's discharging and evaluate the engineering design accordingly.
And during the plan review, since I'm a big fan of swales, and
I just want the audience to have some degree of satisfaction that we are going to be looking out for those issues. And another thing I would like for you to expand on just a little bit would be those two dams that I had questioned before. What are we going to be doing to assure that those dams are safe?
well, on the Department of Conservation Recreation Dam Safety Program for Virginia, for any regulated dam, there is a requirement that the owner or operator, and owner is defined by the dam safety people completely different from what you would think. It can be anyone who's got operational control. They're responsible for that dam. They have to do periodic inspections, and every year, the dam safety people require that you renew your operations and maintenance plan. You also have to maintain an emergency action plan based on some criteria, height of the dam, size of the impoundment. And all of that is required once a year by the applicant or by the owner-operator to renew their O&M, and every 5 years, you have to have a PD, professional engineer, come out and certify the dam to satisfy the requirements. And our conditions in this conditional use permit, we, of course, would spell that out. But the bottom line is the dam safety folks take their job very seriously. They will make you comply and get those certifications and all the renovations and repairs. You don't get your O&M, your operations and maintenance permit from them until you make repairs and alterations. That would be required.
Any questions, comments?
I wanted to bring up, that's what I brought up at the very first meeting, since I worked for VDOT and for the survey department, I noticed those elevations, and I asked them about them in the beginning, and I said there were some of them were 200 feet drop between the top and the bottom. Like I said, they assured, and then when I went back and looked at it, they are in the major areas that go down to the swamps and the streams and all the other stuff, and that is in the RPA area, which can be touched anyway, but I wanted to make sure, like tell everybody else, that they have to stay with that in a certain space away from that, and according to Ron, they may even have to be a little further once these other divisions of DEQ and everybody else, maybe they'll see that they're a little too close. Now with this conceptual plan, they'll say, oh, no, you can't do this last row because they're too close. So I wanted to bring that up. And, what was the other thing? Oh, and, well, we weren't supposed to answer questions, but I just wanted to say to the public, since it was a concern, the last thing in items 18 and 19 were the fees for the inspections and the annual reviews are being paid by the applicant. This county does not pay that, so that's going to be determined, like you said, with the new rewritten of those two.
Yes, sir. We're in the process now of working out a fee schedule. And that's something the Board of Supervisors has to pass by, at least for planning and zoning, we believe in other ordinances. But the fee schedule will cover the cost of third-party outside professionals, since I'm a very big supporter of that.
And also with the bring up the bond, Ron is very good with this, will be in a good amount to cover anything that would happen if this facility does have to be decommissioned. So we're going to make sure of that, he's real sticker on that one too. So.
Well, you saw how lightly from the bonding part was, but yes, I am, personally, I believe that decommissioning is a huge factor, and that I want to protect the county, even if I'm gone, to make sure that we do these things.
Yeah, similar to what Mr. Greenwood just said, I don't think that we as a commission have discussed very much related to the inspections that this large project is going to entail and what a burden that is going to be, you know, even if you hire someone to help supplement those inspections, it's still going to be an added burden on your staff related to the county and what needs to be done. I also still, there were some concerns that were brought up by one of the board members related to another county and their inspection fees and their language and amounts for the decommissioning bond that had been brought to my attention that does still add concern for me, along with some of the other comments that the rest of the planning commission members have brought. The information that was sent to us just yesterday that Mrs. Stanley went over, it was not a lot of time to review prior to the meeting, and to know whether we've addressed all the concerns that might be listed in there.
Anything else? All right, at this time, we have several options before us. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Etter. We can recommend denial of the application. We can recommend approval with the conditions as stated, or we can recommend additional things. So as far as with the, I think that with them having gone to the entirety commission, that regards to potential recycle value of material covered. Was there something else you wanted to add along these lines with the decommissioning?
No, I really had felt like that's something that our staff needed to go back and do some more reevaluation to make sure that what we've come up with is adequate.
Are there any other conditions that the planning commission would recommend at this time?
I would like to make the statement as far as an additional condition that if anything else is found to be necessary, that we have the ability to add those conditions prior to it going before the board.
Mr. Chairman, with that in mind, I would move that we table this until our next meeting, and that we hold a work session between now and the next meeting to discuss further issues and concerns with this. We have a responsibility to make this right. This is the first large facility we have, and we need to make sure that we have further discussion. We need to work with Mr. Edwards to see that some of those things are working. So I heard that.
So your motion is to table it until our next work session, which is the 12th
Table it until our next planning commission meeting, but
in January.
discuss it in our next work session.
We have a motion properly seconded. Any further discussion?
So what date would that be? Okay.
January the 7th. As far as discussion, go
But
ahead.
discussion, I just want to make sure the proper notice in terms of, because we've noticed for that work session, does it have to state a specific purpose?
No, it does not. And I would like to add, I am actually against that motion. I will be voting against that motion.
Okay.
The local approval is a key step in their process. This has been going on since August, as we don't have to be, not identified additional conditions, as the conditions proposed by staff seem reasonable. I don't see any reason. That's my opinion. But we do have a motion properly seconded. Ms. Cole, would you call the roll, please? And the motion is to table the decision until our January 7th meeting, I believe it is.
Ms. Bonnie Hunt? Aye to table it.
Mr. Stephen Greenwood,
Nay, to not table it.
Ms. Jamie Rhodes,
Table.
So it's not.
Aye.
And nay. So the ayes carry it 3-2, and it's tabled until our January 7th meeting. The recommendation of the Board of Supervisors that we had a public hearing. Everyone is invited back to that meeting. I guess they can speak in public comment period about it. There will not be no public hearing on it, but we will be making our recommendation at that meeting. Okay, thank you all very much. And thank you all for coming. You're welcome to stay, or you guys are welcome to do.
Good to see you. How you doing? Doing good. Where did you feel that? Where on this path is like infield coming down?
Here's the best way for me to show it. Why don't we have Bankman Farm
Work from there.
Infield Road.
the whole area.
Yeah.
I mean, his side, it's right off in.
Okay. So his house is down there?
Yeah, give me the property. I'm sorry, but he's not talking about.
Yeah, that's fine.
For a minute. We're still meeting.
Yeah, I work in IT. Not really.
Item number 7, planning commission schedule. Better.
Good evening. In your packet, we have a planning commission monthly meeting scheduled for 2020. It turned out, if I remember correctly, that there were no conflicts. You want to do like first Wednesday of each month at 7 p.m. All of them, no, not on a holiday. Not on election day.
I did that guy with Mark, too. It was good seeing him.
No.
Submit our package materials.
Yes.
It's like all the way towards the back, very, very back.
Okay, I'm sorry, I missed it.
Congratulations.
So again, what you have here is the first Tuesday of each month, 7 p.m. It does not look like we need to make any allotments for alterations for holidays.
So you guys can see what happens in this situation. I would say it's
Are you gonna ask me for approval tonight, or are you gonna ask me for?
Yeah, that's completely up to the planning commission.
We can go ahead and do it. I think we do need to determine if there are any dates that people cannot be there so that we can shirk more.
Well, let's go ahead then, and we will set the January 7th meeting, and you all have the dates, and we can at that point, set it for the rest of the year. That's January 7th meeting. And while it's not on the agenda, Mr. Better, if you would also, for the January 7th meeting, in addition to having these dates again, for resignation, you would also include the current bylaws. Send to the commission. Now, that's changes that I would like to approve at that meeting. I'm going to be adding a section for retention of recordings in accordance with the library retention schedule. And I may add some other things, and I would welcome any other changes. I think they're pretty good as they are right now, so we shouldn't have too much to add or change. But if you would add that packet as well, the drafts of the current bylaws. And at this time, we'll go to old business. Mr. Better. Future work session dates, have we all agreed with the 12th works for everyone? Was that the date we came up with?
What were the days?
I had sent out for the 10th and the 12th. I think we were going to go with the 12th to shot you an email, but I know you're a little copy of work, right? Or you can go.
Not the 12th, that's the only day I'm not available. I'm available every other day, not the 9th or the 12th.
Well, while we're here, who wasn't available on the 10th? Was Bonnie or Jamie?
I'm not, well,
Who said it was the EDA or something, wasn't it?
EDA's on the 11th,
okay.
so we struck that.
The 10th is me.
And who, you said you couldn't come on the 10th?
Correct.
Okay. I can probably make it, it'll be a push, but.
We can't do it on the 9th because it's too soon, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, and then,
So it sounds like we're stuck with the 10th.
Oh, the 12th, you can have it.
Well,
Yeah.
Are we agreed with the 12th?
If we have it the 12th, we will have Bonnie, Don, and John. If we have it the 10th, we will have Stephen, John, Don, and possibly Jamie.
I may be able to, I have it down for the 12th. Did I say I couldn't come on the 12th?
No, you said you could. No, you did say you couldn't. You told me you could not make it on.
I can't make it on the 11th, I knew that, yeah. So the 12th I can make.
You can?
Not the 10th.
10th is a little bit hard.
Okay.
Okay. All right, well, we would have at least 4 for the 12th.
And the EDA is not, they'll be meeting on the 11th.
Yes, sir.
So then the 12th at 6:30, we're good for that? Okay. And item number 9, staff and/or special committee reports. Mr. Better.
Potential commercial projects. We're progressing with 2 of the storage area, mini storage facilities. Let's see. We have the Hamilton Homes HVAC, solar panels going in there. They're still working their way through the permitting process. Just for anybody who's left here, Atlantic Broadband has opened an office over off Sharon Road in that shopping center. So you can go in there and make inquiries about how soon they're going to be in y'all's neighborhoods for those who didn't get to. I believe that's about all the things that we have in the pipeline right now as far as the commercial projects. There are a few projects that, are out in the wind, but nobody's come in for preliminaries. And until they come in for preliminaries, I don't really want to share that.
I had a question on certificate of occupancy. You had a commercial building, $9.5 million. What was that?
Let me look.
Where are you seeing that?
It's under certificate of occupancy on the building report. Shows a certificate of occupancy, $9.5 million commercial.
That's probably on Wendy's building report.
That's what, yeah. Let me see it.
I cannot answer your question. I was talking $9.5 million off there.
That's what I was thinking. I thought I could look at it, it would jump
It's
right up.
probably Tractor Supply.
Very likely.
It's more than likely what it is. I'm sorry, I was trying to wrap my brain.
Oh, thank you. Yes, because we actually just issued the CO for that because they were operating.
Yes.
For,
That's what it is.
What was that?
It's Tractor Supply.
Tractor Supply.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bonnie.
So another commercial, and again, you can see from, the reports about what we did. I do want to, while this doesn't affect the planning commission directly, under our zoning group, we have a lot more enforcement actions occurring right now. And believe it or not, we're incredibly busy in planning and zoning and building right now. But if you have any other questions, I'll be happy to answer them on staff reports.
Any questions? Go ahead.
Question at this end? Question at this end? I do have one question while we're waiting for Mr. Wagner. So you do a monthly building report. You have in front of us for October.
Yes, sir.
Do you do a yearly building report? Do you do a compilation of all 12 months?
Yes.
I would ask for our January meetings that you have a draft annual report that would include these annual statistics as well as a one-page summary of what the planning commission has done this year in terms of public hearings and any other major activities.
Currently, staff is working on an annual report, and we will, as I see two people jotting things down on either side of me, to make sure that we have a full building report a year to date.
For many years, the city of Manassas has had a big, fat, thick report that's very, very pretty. Something very simple that it gives a snapshot. I think you'll be amazed at just how much you all have done. And it was good for the board of supervisors to see that. It also.
And it's a requirement.
Yes.
Sorry, I just wanted to, I did realize, at one of our work sessions, when that did come up, the annual report did come up, and I stated I wasn't aware of that. We actually did do a report last year. It is a very small, just minimal numbers report. I've actually done my due diligence and looked up a few other reports from other counties, and would like to make it just a little more extensive, a little more pretty, just kind of put a little extra information in there. So I am doing my best to work on that, to have that together.
You've got a lot on your plate, so I'm not going to ask for anything expensive, but something, a small snapshot that really will tell the supervisors just how active your office is.
I think that's also good information for the board supervisors and school boards.
I'm recommending that
Do you
we,
provide that information to other sections of other staff within the county?
Yes.
no, my whole idea is we'll approve that report, would you have it by January?
We have, yeah, these are spreadsheets, so for the most part, it's running tallies, so that's not a lot of issue.
Thank you.
A lot of people don't realize that we've had, over the last 5 years, probably 600 new housing. And we get this.
We're waiting for the census to come out.
All right, any other questions, comments for the staff?
One question on, you think this is small, I can't read.
I know, I don't want to order on the spreadsheet.
Zoning permits. You have a zoning permit here for Darrell Kellum, parcel 29-8B. The proposed subdivision is parcel 29-8, 2951, 2962. Is 29-8B a part of that?
Without looking at going in and looking at the GIS to figure out, I don't know. What's the permit?
Well,
It's just land
this
disturbance?
was for land disturbance.
Bet you that's the, oh shoot, what's the one with the other side of the pond? The 3 lot?
Deckers.
Was it Deckers? If you need, give us a call tomorrow and ask the question.
Okay,
Because we just, I mean, we get tons and tons of
Yeah.
land
the
disturbance.
comment is, and we've discussed this before, but the comment is, if that is a land disturbance within the proposed subdivision area, that kicks in the need for them to provide preliminary plan for that before any construction can be done.
Okay. How much? He's building a single-family dwelling. That's for a single-family dwelling.
As long as it's separate. from-
It's, you're talking about the Indian River.
No,
Yeah,
is it,
Indian Hills, it's his farm,
yeah, what
Yeah.
behind him.
right behind Kelly Lane, right off Kelly
no,
Lane.
yeah, no, sir. it's
This
not like that.
particular, because there's little key elements there, 2,500 square feet is what he uses for him and every developer, because they got it in their mind somewhere that that was a magic number. The magic number is 1 acre. 2,500 square feet, anything less than that, you don't need a permit. But if you come in and tell me you're getting ready to build a house, and you tell me it's less than 2,500 square feet, I'm not going to believe you. And not only will I not believe you, but the zoning administrator is not going to sign anything like that. So, it's a single-family dwelling, it won't be associated.
Any other questions, comments? If not, any final comments before we adjourn? Ms. Rhodes?